by film.
5,
Stand by music.
4,
Stand by announce.
3, 2, 1.
And fade up.
All aboard!
And a name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back.
Don't act like you're not impressed.
On page 394.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
That is so fetch.
Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dive.
The power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
Where's my super suit?
Hey, Fat Lard, come get some dinner.
Well,
I am not drinking any f***ing Merlot.
And I'm gonna try to forget the fact that you're a girl. But dogs can look up.
Oh, durga.
you tell me what I saw this woman? This is the Polar Express.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to a brand new episode of 20 Years 4 Beers. We are a podcast dedicated to rewatching movies from at least 2 decades ago, while simultaneously enjoying a minimum of 4 modern beers. My name is Steve, and this is my big brother,
Tim.
and we are coming to you from Minneapolis, Minnesota. We have just watched and recorded our episode on The Incredibles, and as usual, we sit down and discuss another film over another beer, so we refer to these as our happy hour episodes.
Hey, you guys. Happy hour is from 4 to 6.
On this happy hour, we will be taking a turn from the animated comedy and discussing a dramatic biopic in 2004's Ray. Ray is the story of the life and career of Ray Charles, from his meager upbringing to his early days touring clubs around the country and eventually to his superstardom. While Ray does his best to overcome his childhood blindness, he has a much tougher time with drugs and alcohol and women, as most music biopics do. But also we get to see a somewhat accurate portrayal of the meteoric rise of a music legend. The film is directed by Taylor Hackford, written by James White with story by Hackford, and stars Jamie Foxx, Kerry Washington, Regina King, Bokeem Woodbine, I think is right, Clifton Powell, and Sharon Warren.
Now you go ahead and play. I'ma close these drapes.
All right.
I don't want no neighbors looking in.
Well, I got a woman way over town. It's good to me. Oh yeah, I got a woman way over town.
Ray,
It's good to me. Oh yeah,
Ray,
she give me money.
Ray, that's sacrilegious.
What?
Come on, not my beer.
With our reactions and verdicts to the movie out of the way, we move on to the reactions to our beers that we drank while rewatching our subject movie.
And if you want to have sex with a disgusting bad brewer with a terrible attitude,
This is where we take a look back at our beers and give our expert ratings for our drinking buddies.
ugh, whatever. Hey, here's the truth.
This is Drinking Buddies.
Let's get weird.
You want to go first?
Sure.
What do you got?
End of the season as we are. It's somewhat a rarity, but still being able to find the option comes out of it. This year I had Surly's Wet Hopped IPA.
Surprised you haven't had that before.
Well, I have. We just haven't had the podcast. And I always like the wet because I'm like,
Well, obviously,
like?
we've had it before. But, right. Okay.
But I was like, I should check it out.
Right.
It's a 3.75.
Yeah.
I find them to be just kind of solid this time of year.
Yeah.
Nothing really stands out to me anymore with the wet hopped, like the fresh mosaic from Castle Danger. But this one was like, yeah, it was fine. I was hoping for more, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And then what kind of stood out was an option that Brewing Pod Project out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin. They have their Dare Mighty Things, which is kind of their like flagship IPA.
Yep.
But this time, to their credit, they had a 4-pack multi-pack of 12 ounces. And they were one with just Citra, one with El Dorado, one with Mosaic, and then the fourth one was all of them together.
Oh, interesting.
And so it was really cool. And it was like $15. I'm like, sure, I can do that. Make it work. It's reasonable. So I had not for this one, but I think over the last months to call it out. The best one, not surprising, is their Mosaic.
Yeah.
So I kind of saved that one knowing for this week could be
Got it.
nice.
So you can talk about it.
Yeah, because the other ones were fine.
Yeah.
El Dorado, I don't know that's a great option. It actually was kind of the worst, and it made the the mix of them worse.
Yeah.
But Mosaic, nice and clear. I had a 4 out of that one. So yeah, I like their Dare Mighty Things, like Flagship IPA, but the Mosaic.
Yeah.
Very good.
Nice.
What'd you have?
I also had a fresh hop out of Unmapped Brewing Company. I have covered in the past. They had a different, it's hard because, like, is it a new one every year? It's a fresh hop, right? I mean, so they had their home run IPA, I think it was, or whatever, in years past. And this time, and they had done it a few years ago, but we didn't cover it. This time they called it their Hop Dazzle Fresh Hop IPA. And so they get hops from Dan Gladden, Twins legend baseball player. He's got a hop farm here in town.
Gotcha.
Or outside of town. And really sweet. It was delicious. I had this years ago. I think I had a 3.5 back then. I had 3.75 this time though, and maybe that was just different, batch. I mean,
sure.
It was crushable, but not like, oh my god, amazing. To your point, I haven't had a great fresh hop in quite some time. LTD just had a pretty solid one this year, actually, but I didn't cover it on the pod. But anyway, and then out of Three Floyds Brewing Company, I think out of Chicago. Their Gumball Head, their like wheat ale or whatever it is, their pale ale. It's like famous. It's like been around forever. I had never had it before, and so I got it. And I think it's not as great as the hype would suggest, because some people are like, it's my favorite, or oh my god, it's great. But it's still 4 out of 5. It was really good. I do understand why people like it, but I mean, I was like, okay. Let's bring it down a little bit. But I think it's like a wheat ale, or I can't exactly remember, but it's that. I liked it though. It was good. 4 out of 5.
And then tonight we're having Fair State out of Minneapolis.
Oh yeah.
We've had their Roselle sour, I should say, not IPA.
Yeah.
Roselle, but I saw it recently and I'm like, I'm gonna check it out. It's their tropical Roselle, and I'm gonna tell you what the label says, and then we can discuss if it comes through. It's a summer sipper, but towards the end of it, jammed. I don't know about that with pineapple, mango, and a splash of lime, and then their usual healthy dose of hibiscus. So those that know this, they put hibiscus in there, and I like their standard roselle with hibiscus.
Yeah, the raspberry roselle is really good too.
Very good. So I guess I was having the raspberry and this one.
So this says it's
pineapple, mango, and a splash of lime. I do not taste any of those.
Maybe a little of the lime on the back end.
Yeah, splash. But it's jammed with pineapple.
It tastes like the Roselle.
So much more.
Yeah.
And it's super disappointing.
No, yeah.
It's a solid
That's
Roselle
good.
sour. But what I was expecting, like we had with the raspberry, was like, yes.
Fair State. God bless.
I know, right? Don't package this shit. It's like, all these like things that jam. It's not.
No.
Oh, it's a nice sour.
Pineapple.
Mango. Good luck with mango. Like, not at all. So and maybe it's like the sour that gets in and it kills it off, but whatever.
Maybe
3.5. Yeah. Because of it's a solid sour, but calling it tropical.
What it's supposed to be. Yeah. I mean, this tastes like the Roselle.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's 3.5.
Solid, but
it's good. It's drinkable, but what you sort of think it's going to be, failure on that one.
Not.
Oh, well.
If you guys were the inventors of Facebook, you'd have invented Facebook.
This is a social network.
You don't have to be an intellectual property expert to understand the difference between right and wrong.
Where we take a look back at the critical and fan reception from 2 decades ago.
Mark!
As usual, Tim takes point on this, so take it away, Tim.
You better lawyer up, asshole, because I'm not coming back for 30%. I'm coming back for everything.
$1 billion.
The IMDb rating is 7.7 out of 10, so pretty solid. David Anson of Newsweek magazine said, Ray is filled with many pleasures, but is hobbled by the too familiar conventions of the musical biopic. With so many chapters of Charles's life to cover, the movie never really finds a rhythm or a groove to settle into. Kenneth Turan of LA Times said, Ray turns out to be a proudly conventional film that combines an involving true story, irresistible music, and a charismatic performance in a way that makes us not only forgive, but actually almost relish how standard the presentation is. Seems like weird, like damning praise, but that's what it is. Roger Ebert, care to guess what he gave this one?
Sorry, I don't know.
Sorry, our kids are wrestling upstairs apparently.
4.
4 out of 4.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
I assume based on the performance.
Yeah. The movie would be worth seeing simply for the sound of the music and the sight of Jamie Foxx performing it. That it looks deeper and gives us a sense of the man himself is what makes it special. Director Taylor Hackford brings quick sympathy to Charles as a performer and a man. For Ray Charles was quite a man. This movie not only knows it, but it understands it.
You suck up, Raj.
It's really weird. Like,
yeah.
Considering he died a few months before, sure. He was quite the man. Academy Awards that year, 6 nominations, which I kind of forgot about. I mean, obviously outside the main one, but it had 2 wins. So the nominations included costume design, film editing, director, and picture. And the wins were for sound mixing, again, not to be confused with sound editing, but mixing, and best actor for Jamie Foxx.
Yep.
That's what we got.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll get into that in a little bit. So here we go. We begin our discussion with our reaction segment that we call Spotlight.
This is Boston, and the church does not want them to be found. So, they are not there.
This is where we highlight and discuss our top takeaways of any kind from rewatching our subject film.
We've got 2 stories here. We've got a story about degenerate clergy, and we've got a story about a bunch of lawyers turning child abuse into a cottage industry.
If there were 90 of these bastards, people would know.
Maybe they do.
This is Spotlight.
They knew, and they let it happen.
All right. Tim, why don't you take it away here on our first Spotlight reaction?
So I will say I have not watched this in probably 20 years.
I think when I got it on digital, either it was Dista Digital or like bought it or whatever. I think that was probably the last time. So I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, whatever that was. But it's been long. And even then, I'm not even sure I finished it back then. So.
Right? So it's been somewhat of a fresh watch.
Sure.
And we've talked about it a little bit in previous episodes. 2004 was not a great year for movies.
Nope.
And when we looked at our schedule, we had like a lot of latitude to say, we're going to jump back in time and do the 30s and 25 years, 94, 99. And I offer that because after seeing it again, I'm honestly not that surprised that it's not something I've watched on the regular. It's a pretty standard biopic that it just feels now, which is weird to say in this world, but at the time wouldn't have been, like it's just built by an algorithm to hit all the usual notes. Like, here's some interwoven flashbacks. Oh, there's a traumatic origin event. Gosh, how about we throw in a dash of an inspirational parent? And then, you know what? Overcoming drug addiction. How about a philandering, piece of shit human being that's still legendary, but steps outside the marriage? And how about we have that wife just be super unreasonably loyal? And it just feels like, which at the time, I don't know that I remember feeling like blown away by it. Just watching it, I'm happy we watched it.
Right.
Ultimately. But it's one of those of like, and I'll talk about the performance.
Oh yeah, of course we'll get there.
But just the overall experience watching again, I was like, well, that's a movie.
There was part of me that was hoping that you would have really loved this movie.
Like,
so we could argue about it. Because I think we agree here. I think this is so there's good and bad in this movie for sure. And there's I'll even go beyond that. There's like all time good in this movie,
sure,
and there is just
so
eye rolling dog shit in this movie.
Yes,
it's like it's a huge gap,
laughably
in
bad.
between. I have to question, like, oftentimes when you watch a movie, older movie, right? Like if you were to watch When Harry Met Sally, or which is sort of like kicked off a lot of the romantic comedies or whatever, and you ask yourself like, oh, this is kind of cliche. Well, yeah, because it started the cliche, right? So how much?
Yes.
Like how much of this movie feels like it checked off all the boxes because what came out before it that checked off the boxes.
Yes.
Walk the Line's a year after this, and it checks off a lot of those same boxes.
Yes.
And then future music biopics, whether it be Elvis or Bohemian Rhapsody or whatever it is, there are certain boxes that get checked off in all of them. So you're like, did it start the stereotype, or was it just checking off those boxes? I don't know, but I do know. The writing, this is the only of the Best Picture nominees of that year that did not get nominated for writing, which thank God, because the writing is just shit.
It's so bad.
It is bad writing. It is like, I don't want to say offensively bad, but it is really bad. It's damn near close. Nothing is good. There's no flow to it of any kind. Every line is stereotypical for even not a music biopic, but just every line is stereotypical of like almost movie of the week. Like it just is. My first takeaway is at no point was I enthralled in what was being said.
No.
Said specifically.
Sure.
Spoken by somebody. At no point in this movie was I like enthralled what was being said. The writing is almost offensively bad.
Yeah, it's like, how do you?
Which, by the way, this was up for a BAFTA for. I think it was up for a BAFTA for writing. Yeah. Anyway, but how do you what?
I don't know, and I could be completely wrong, but I don't believe the screenwriter
James White.
Sure, well
irony a little bit. In the,
God forbid if he's black or white as a human being.
I didn't look, but I was like,
the flashback sequences to the mother. It's like, how do we do like Song of the South with a little bit more palatable racism to it? Like it's just so like stereotypical, like Southern black woman in Northern Florida, and like the way she talks, I'm just like, dear God. And perhaps that was accurate.
And no shade towards Sharon Warren, who does a great job. Her
performance is
role.
great, and she's actually like under like it's a thankless role.
Yeah, she does a good job.
But
yeah,
dear God. The mom, it's like, Jesus, like
within
two white
10
dudes.
minutes, you have a black dude doing soft shoe up on stage. It's
yes.
Like, you're just hitting every sort of racist trope on this.
God.
I know, it is so bad.
And so there's a bit of a, the reason that, Taylor Hackford as a director hasn't really done anything since this. So maybe like Hollywood's like, ugh.
Even though he was nominated for Best Director.
But still it's like,
which
we'll come to that.
Yeah.
We got a lot of problems. So to that point.
Yeah. We are accused of liking movies, I think, a lot.
Sure.
And definitely sucking the D on some movies. This is not going to be one of them.
There's no D sucking on this one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jamie Foxx is pretty great. But beyond that.
No,
yeah.
I'm shocked this was up for Best Picture. And again, I think it's a recognition of how terrible
it was a bad year.
The offerings were.
You just go, really?
This was something like we talk about, like Eternal Sunshine.
Yeah,
I know I'm biased, but
but I mean, it was on the radar because it was nominated and won for other Oscars,
screenplay, but still, Best Picture. I honestly think if Ray Charles had not died this same year,
it's my last.
I guess I'm wondering. Oh,
yeah,
spoiler. Yeah,
no,
I wonder like if this would have even been considered because
for Best Picture, I'm not sure. Yeah,
like
best actor, different story.
Oh, like actor aside, yes, but like it just. Again, confirms why we struggled.
It was a legitimate hit.
Sure.
So, I mean, that also played into it. It made a lot of money, and Hollywood likes that.
But I think about, like, a movie that stands the test of time.
Right.
In that year, whatever it might be, that's encapsulates something that's interesting, compelling. It is just standard, beat by beat biopic. And offensively bad at times. Great performance, certainly throughout by Jamie Foxx. But I just cannot believe that this is a Best Picture nominated movie. Like, it's just, again, reflection of how bad the movies were that year.
Yeah, it was Aviator,
$1 Million Baby, Finding Neverland, and Sideways.
Yeah. Yep.
And this is, I mean,
it's the weakest
I've never seen Finding Neverland.
It's still the weakest of all those.
But knowing the summary of it, it's got to be the weakest of it.
Yeah, it is. And Finding Neverland is just schlock or like it's just like
yeah, like they're going for all the feels,
but movies that are better, right? Garden State's better. The Village is obviously better.
Yes.
You've got Eternal Sunshine. Miracle's a better movie than this is.
Exactly.
Well,
Freaking-
Dodgeball, Spider-Man 2. Pretty much almost every other movie we've covered this year.
Freaking Collateral.
Yeah.
It's better than this with Jamie Foxx,
Yep.
if you want to call something out. Like, that movie is far more compelling and engaging. This just like, yeah, just felt like a courtesy. Like, I guess we got to get to 5.
Well, you got Life Aquatic. You love Life Aquatic.
Oh, God, I love Life
You know
Aquatic.
what I mean? That's better.
Absolutely. I'd freaking put
Even
that
I
in
would
there
say
with
that's
that.
better. Yeah. Yep. And so the movie. Well, good. Let's just keep shitting on it.
Yeah,
then.
this feels good. It's really cathartic.
I have literally in all caps and underscored thick on the melodrama and the melodramatic visuals, and the music is just for a pretty damn good composer in Craig Armstrong.
Yes.
It is
What a waste.
awful.
Yes.
It is like it's awful. It floats dangerously close to movie of the week at times. It's not quite there, but it just floats.
I was thinking that.
Like it's just bad. The
Like
music
Hallmark?
is bad. The lines are not good. Like everything. It is just thick on the melodrama, and it's just it's just lays it on.
Yes.
And it is just not enjoyable. Again, this is the weird thing about Ray.
Yes.
You could argue half of the movie is actually enjoyable because of a performance and the songs.
Yes.
And then the other half is just not good.
No.
It's not good. So it's thick on the melodrama.
Yes. And like, so the melodrama piece to me, and I had a problem with it, seeing it, but watching again even more so, say nothing of the fact of like a child's death clearly would be traumatic. Like that's just like, obviously.
Yeah.
From an older brother standpoint, watching your brother drown in that, it would be. Like, yeah, I just realized I'm talking through it. Like, oh, thanks, Tim. But I don't know. Like, to me, I'm like, the way they reveal it and they like hint at it of this trauma and coming through and his like,
You see a dead baby's foot in the first like 2 minutes of
like
the movie.
in this like suitcase. Oh, and then like the water on the floor. It's just like, I actually would have loved if they'd had that earlier.
Sure. Yeah.
In a sense of like, let's just get these cards on the table. This weird hinting at something bad.
Yeah, if they had led with that,
Yeah.
like at the beginning,
Yeah.
I agree. And then he wakes up from a nightmare or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like you've hooked the audience as far as like, oh, because we all know he's blind. Spoiler. We know Ray Charles is blind. So it's like, how do you handle that of like,
Sorry.
yeah. Like,
Sorry, hold on. I got a side note only because it's our mom, and Mom, God bless you if you're listening to this. But today she's like, what are you guys watching? And I was like, oh, we're going to watch Incredibles, and then we're going to talk about Ray. And she goes, oh, is that Stevie Wonder? And she stopped in the middle, and I was like, excuse me, what's that now? It's like, I was like,
you had two guesses,
you had two
the second doesn't
choices,
count.
and I told you Ray, and you went with Stevie? Sure. I was like,
oh my God.
I know. I turned around, I was like, I literally gave her a heads up. I was like, I'm going to make fun of you now.
You're like, that's a problem. But I wonder about
Anyway,
like, oddly enough, they're like two like predominant. Okay, yeah.
Anyway, I know. It's
we're
like
going-
you got two choices here.
We're going to help. I just think about that type of harrowing experience growing up.
Yeah.
I don't like that they like held it towards the midpoint or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I agree.
And like hinted at like, oh, this trauma. And it's like, no. I feel like that's where the melodrama, like that's from a screenwriting standpoint.
Yeah, if I
And we're gonna
remember right,
reveal
Walk the
it.
Line starts with him as a kid with his brother, right?
brother
Where he dies on the saw or
on the
whatever.
saw. Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. Like
that's just
get it out of the way.
Yes.
And then like just have it and click forward to him waiting for the bus and he's
Yes.
having this memory or something like that. It
Yeah,
doesn't
he's
have
sitting
to
there.
be constant water all over the
Yes.
place. Which don't get me wrong, that's a visual. I mean,
Sure.
it works. You know,
It's just
with
lazy.
him working through the drugs eventually. Like I get that, but yeah, no, it's just not.
I agree. The melodrama. It just felt, I love that movie of the week. It absolutely felt like watching again. This is like a glorified Hallmark movie or Lifetime thing where it's like, hey, this week we're going to present the life story of Ray Charles.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is like, how did this become a big movie like it is? And
Well, we know why, but
well, sure, but it's like super sappy and really frustrating. Juxtaposed with, as it might have been, like, kudos to the mom and the storyline of like, no one's going to give you shit in the world.
Yeah.
You got to do this, and you got to get, confident in the world.
Right.
I do actually like the scene where he trips as a kid and has to figure it out, and she's there.
I love that scene.
It's a
I absolutely love that
like,
scene.
at times it's effective things where he's like
the flashbacks could have been there.
Yes.
As what he learned and it could have been tying into what he was experiencing now.
Yes.
Of the relationship with his mother.
Yes.
That would have been much more heartfelt.
Like, to me, I just was like, the mom was such a, like, given, like, short shrift.
Yeah.
In terms of the overall story.
Yeah.
She clearly had the impact that got him to where he was going to be in the world.
Yeah.
It just felt like this half-assed, like, oh, gosh, your youngest kid dies, and you got to try and raise it. Just a lot of problems with it. But there's still effective moments that come through. And that's where I think it struggled with, what is the tone we're going to go for?
Yeah.
It just never felt like we know we're going with this story. It just was like, let's try this, let's try that. I don't know, see how it works. Let's try, like, half-assed.
Yeah. I get bothered. I'm going to guess you don't know much about Ray Charles's actual life. In terms of like relationship to the movie and what actually happened, and
I'm sure they took a lot of liberties, but
they
I don't
do.
know much.
We're not talking Bohemian Rhapsody type of liberties here,
Yeah.
right? Which I'm going to mention a couple times tonight because fuck that movie. Any chance I can to shit on that movie, I will shit on that movie 100 out of 100 times. So be prepared.
Again, except for the main performance.
Yeah, even then, it's great, but it shouldn't have won. But anyway, we're moving on. So. What I'm saying is, it really bothers me. So, like, what Bohemian Rhapsody bothers me because they just decided to basically just wash over what actually happened, even though what actually happened was pretty interesting.
Exactly.
And in here, I think it was pretty clear that Ray was involved in this movie making because they skip over a lot of things. He basically had two moms growing up. Like, he had his mother, and then I think it was I don't know if it was his dad's mom or his aunt or something like that. And he had like his mama and then his mama, whatever her name was. Like he had so he had two women in his life raising him. His brother's death, while tragic, was not hanging over him like this for all these years. It was not something that haunted him like this, like they would suggest in this film. And I understand it works.
Yeah.
But, it wasn't necessary. Like, again, to your point, start with the death at the beginning as a sort of like, bring me into this person's world.
Yep.
And then the rest of his the rest of those flashbacks could have been him learning how to handle being blind, learning him to, like, what he's learning from his mother that ties into these situations, or maybe both his mothers.
Sure.
Yeah. So, like, I really get bothered by music biopics, and it's a lot of times music biopics that do this. Because they fill this stereotype, and like I check the box of what's supposed to be, and it's drugs, and it's this, and it's that.
Yes.
And you're like, why can't you just tell it how it really happened?
Yes.
It was still pretty interesting. It doesn't need these extra things. So, Ray had, when he met Della B, he had already been married, and he had a kid before her. So we're clear. just so we're clear.
That's
so in this movie, he comes across
God.
as this innocent blind kid who's being taken advantage of, which he was.
Sure.
But he'd been married and he had a kid with a different woman. So he had a kid with a woman he was dating, and they were dating and they were together or whatever. But they had a kid, and then he had gotten married and they had gotten divorced after like a year or whatever. So by the time he meets Della B, he'd been. Like, it's just kind of like, he is not the innocent person that he comes across
I met
to
this,
be.
like, church-going woman. Yeah.
Right. And so, I do appreciate that this movie does not hide his demons.
True.
In terms of his drugs and alcohol and things like that. Like, and his womanizing.
Yeah.
It does not hide. It does not make Ray Charles look like a good person.
No.
Like, I will appreciate that. Like, so, anyway, I'm off topic here a little bit, but it bothers me when these biopics choose to avoid what really happened.
Yes.
And in this case, I don't know. I don't know where to go with that. It's the whole time through I'm going, and we'll get into more of that in my trivia here in a little while. Okay. But like, there's just so much about it that you go, maybe don't praise him in such a way that when you learn about them after the fact, you're disappointed that they're not what you presented them to be.
Yeah. Like there's again, nerd alert. A hagiography is basically a term of like, we're going to aggrandize a subject matter for the purpose of like propaganda. And so, yes, I do like the fact they don't do that. They don't like paint Ray Charles as a saint. And it's like, look at this man who just died of this like legendary career, how great he was. Right. It's like, yeah, this is tell a time in his life where he wasn't that great.
Yeah.
But even still, it feels sanitized.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sure there was more crazy shit that this guy was doing. Like, and we're just going to be like, oh, no big deal. He's a heroin addict. Like, oh gosh. It didn't have any weight to it.
No.
And that's what I struggled with. Is like, clearly, this man trying to change the music scene as he was working through in like his life. But even hearing that is so annoying. And I don't need like a litany of like, he fucked this person and that and like all this stuff. But you clearly already have portrayed him as like a womanizing man stepping out of his marriage with somebody and then steps on that person with somebody else. It's okay to be like, oh yeah, and now actually with his second marriage type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I do think though it doesn't work. You don't really get that made if he's just. And I don't think he was an asshole because he did do a lot of good in the world. But you just kind of like he doesn't. If you're like, hey, I got a kid with a girlfriend and I was already married and now I'm on my second marriage and this one will work and now I'm going to cheat on her.
Please invest in this as an audience.
Right. So I mean, I get it.
Yes.
But I'm also like, I don't know. Again, that's why it just feels forced and fake.
But what works at times to me
one thing, I want to go into what works too, but I have one more shitty thing.
Okay, cool.
What's up with the PowerPoint shit? Like these like little along the way you get this like, oh, he's running up the charts.
Yes.
And he's like, oh, and then it randomly when he finally does get clean, it's over the next 40 years. And I'm like, that felt so forced.
Yes.
Like, what? Like, where is this coming from? It's not even a good montage.
No.
Like it's really, really bad. It feels just like a newsreel or whatever. Like really, really bad.
Yes.
That's the last bad thing I have. I have good otherwise, but I don't know if you want to come off of that.
I got one more bad thing.
Yeah, let's end on good.
Taylor Hackford's direction.
Sure.
We hinted at it before, talking about like that. It is such meh.
Yeah, it's way better than Devil's Advocate.
Like Proof of Life.
Yeah.
It's more interesting visually than this.
Yeah.
This just feels like it could have been done like by nobody.
Rosemary's Baby too.
What am I
thinking of?
Roman Polanski.
Yeah, it is. I'm thinking of Dolores Claiborne, I think.
Yes, he did. Yeah, exactly. Dolores Claiborne's a fantastic movie.
Yeah. Yep.
Great adaptation. Compelling imagery and like fascinating. This was just like nothing. Paint by numbers, dude, boom, 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 boom. And so, yeah, to me, like the fact that he also was up for Best Director was like, this is so stupid. I mean, Michel Gondry, again, from Eternal Sunshine, not to beat that dead horse.
Yeah.
Far more amazing direction.
You had way better
than this.
Yeah, Brad Bird. So stupid.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay. So
I do think had Finding Nemo come out in this year with how good that was, it might have been up for Best Picture and Best Director. Like you just think of like Andrew Stanton because they were up for screenplay too. I feel like maybe that I don't know. We'll see. Off top.
So I do like that his assholery was universal. We're clearly a womanizer.
Yep.
And terrible to the people in his life as women, but also like the people that, I mean, he learned growing up, he was being taken advantage of, like with the $1 bills and stuff. Great.
Yeah.
But eventually people that in his life who were looking out for him, he hated, like he just shit on them too. And so I do like the fact of, again, when I think about it, it's sanitized in some ways, but also didn't make him out to be the saint where like he was really terrible to the people that he should have trusted.
Yeah.
And the challenge of some of these movies is like, well, then do you still trust them because they are holding you back? Maybe because they're not designed to like get me to the levels I want to be at.
Yeah.
I get all that stuff. But still, some of the stuff I'm like, okay, I can appreciate the fact of like at that time in his life, he was just a piece of shit to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos to that, I guess.
All right. So I will say this. The last thing I have, well, okay. Let's just acknowledge now, piece of shit or not, that music is so freaking unreal.
It's so good.
How good it is.
Yes.
You forget. Like, in fact, I think that was one of the things that maybe stood out for most for people at the time of this movie was that I don't think we realized how, like our generation, because it's pre-Spotify, pre-whatever, like, I don't think our generation realized just how good Ray Charles was. To the point where, because a few years after this, actually it was 2004, right? Right around this time, Kanye had sampled it for Gold Digger, right?
Yes.
And I remember being on a mission trip in Mexico, and Josh Cohen, who's not listening, so I don't care, he comes up to me, and he's like, well, but he goes, did you know that Ray Charles covered Gold Digger? And I was like,
hold up.
What?
Hold up.
I know. So I was like, I mean, like all of a sudden we're realizing how good, right, Ray Charles had and how important he was, and like Led Zeppelin covered his music, and so music is great.
I agree, and that we grew up in a pretty restrictive household.
Yeah, early on. Yep.
Yeah, until like about middle school, high school.
Yeah, mid-90s. Yeah.
I'm still learning about music that like existed like long, like, oh, I had no idea about this. This, I totally agree, expanded my appreciation for Ray Charles.
Yeah, I mean, like,
we went down the rabbit hole, and this was like when, LimeWire and like Nap, like you could burn and find so much music online. Yes, it was like, he did that? Oh my God, and that? And like his catalog was incredible. And I agree. Like it was a great reminder of how powerful this person was for a younger generation where we're like, he's some blind dude, whatever.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's a blind pianist.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And you're like, no, he actually had real, honest to God cultural significance.
Yes. And I was listening to it, a bunch of his songs, like driving home this week and stuff. I was like, oh yeah, that's a fucking banger.
It is. It's so good. And again, we don't think he was necessarily a great person, but we aren't also talking about he wasn't an abuser. He has never been accused of taking advantage of.
Very true.
Like, the worst thing he did was womanize.
Yes.
That's really the worst thing he did.
Yes.
So like, it's not good, but we're not talking about, we're not washing over like
a
a wife beater or predator or anything like that. So that aside, his music is so freaking good.
Yes, it's really good.
So good.
So I only have one more note, and it's about Jamie Foxx.
Okay, my only other note is how impressive is the prosthetics of his eyes?
True.
Like, I actually think makeup artists should have been nominated for this because he was blind for 14 hours a day. Like some days, he was
really?
actually
They
had
would, like,
prosthetics.
close his eyes like that.
Well, they weren't closed; they were open, but they had like rubber prosthetics over his eyes.
Jeez,
so that's makeup. If you see him that way, sometimes it's closed, but for the most part, it's this prosthetics. So some days he was in those prosthetics for 14 hours.
Oh God!
Like, and so people would. There were stories of like they would forget that he had him on, and so they would leave him at the table he was at,
like the craft.
The craft. They'd be out, they'd be talking as a crew, and then he'd be like, I gotta hello. Like I gotta come back,
That's so great.
Yeah, the prosthetics alone. Because I remember being like, is he really just keeping his eyes closed?
Yeah.
But he's not, because you can tell that his muscles aren't like, his cheek muscles aren't forced
he's
up.
not like,
it's just that his eyes are closed that way.
That's pretty great.
Really cool. I gotta say, like, that prosthetically, that's really impressive what they did. So, but that's a natural transition then into the obvious reason to watch this movie is
Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
It's one of those things of, he's just otherworldly.
Oh, yeah.
In this portrayal.
Yeah.
And,
excuse me.
We've talked about different podcasts, or episodes around like, is it really that impressive if you are mimicking someone?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have a reference point. So I think about, again, we're not actors, but I think about, are you creating something from whole cloth?
Mm-hmm.
And are you just amazing, like a Daniel Day-Lewis type of thing where it's like, holy cow, how can you do this? And this is probably one of the best, in my views, mimicry acting performances, where his vocal cadence, the mannerisms, like how he walks, and just the embodiment of a character that we all knew at the time.
Yeah, one way or another,
like,
we knew him.
You had some reference point for this person.
The shaking, the walking back and forth.
And like how it is, and I think a testament to, we had watched Collateral before this came out that year and loved him. And we had a knowledge of him in some small roles and
in like his own show and other things.
And then like in Living Color, like we knew who he was.
Sure.
But it was like a holy shit.
Yeah, it's a coming out party.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so when it came out, it was like, and the Oscar goes to that guy.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like,
it's like, who's going to beat this guy?
No, this is a performance that stands up over time.
True.
Absolutely.
It does not diminish.
No.
Watching it, he's so effing good.
Yeah, he looks, acts, and sounds like Ray Charles. Not to mention the fact, by the way, spare a thought for, or like appreciate, he played the piano in this.
Right?
This isn't a cutaway. He's playing the piano in this. And all the times you see him playing piano, it's Jamie Foxx playing piano.
Yes.
The only thing he isn't is singing, because you just can't mimic that voice.
No, but even still, when he's talking, it's so close. It's like, it feels believable.
Yeah, it is. Oh, and I was going to say, it is by far and away the best lip syncing I've ever seen.
True.
And especially when you see Regina King, who is good in this. The sub performances from Washington King and then Sharon Warren, or the mom, they're good.
They're serviceable.
But King is not a good lip syncer.
No.
The voice does not match the person you're seeing.
Baby, she's got a scream.
Yeah,
it's like, you are not pulling it off.
No, but everything Jamie Foxx is doing for Ray Charles looks like he's singing.
Yes.
Like, it is the best lip syncing I've ever seen.
Because I struggle with movies like this where they're lip syncing, but you can see their vocal effort isn't there.
Yeah, he's doing it.
But he's doing that.
Yeah, and maybe he was singing on set and they just didn't record it. Who knows? But either way,
it comes across.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this was like, again, otherworldly.
Yeah.
And how incredibly impressive it is from his performances as Ray Charles.
Yeah, I mean, we've spent most of this time shitting on this movie. We could probably spend the amount of time talking about him and his performance.
Yes.
And I think what is most impressive is that it stands up. You kind of look back at this and you go, maybe it isn't. Like, maybe it was sort of, it was time, and not his time as if he had put in the effort, but from an African-American winning, or
yes.
Although Denzel had won 2 years prior to this, but or the year prior, right?
But not 2 years prior.
Yeah. So
but that felt
again,
that was deserving, but that felt like this is kind of like
it's time.
An
Best
achievement of your life. Exactly. We got to break that mold. But also, like, this was like, there's no
there's no doubt. There's no doubt. I don't care what else we watched or what we did watch up until this point. It's like our end of the year thing. We'll just
absolutely
skip this segment because, it is. It's great.
It's fantastic.
I mean, it's a reason to watch it.
True.
And yet I wouldn't recommend watching it.
No. But it's not like, if you watch it.
Some people love this movie. Like, it's got an 8 point.
Sure.
I mean, it's got.
Yeah.
What
7.7.
7.7. I think the Rotten Tomatoes is like an 80% or something like that, for what that's worth. Like, people legitimately love this movie.
Yeah.
But then my pushback would be, when was the last time you watched this movie?
Yeah, exactly.
So just because you rated it recently, I don't think you watched it recently. I don't know anybody in my life who's like, you know what film I watch every year?
Yes.
I watch Ray, damn it. Like, you just don't hear people who have seen it recently. So,
and the fact of, I know we want to talk about that. It hit me as we're talking through it. The fact that, like, totally, like, not to say whitewash, this sounds terrible, but, like, his whole, like, Jim Crow
the
thing.
writer's last name was White. So.
Yeah, like, him trying to combat Jim Crow, like,
but did he
have it be a big
Some
thing?
dude talked him into it, and then he just decided to do it. Yeah,
but it's like,
it feels so thrown away,
right? It's just like a little thing, like, oh, hey, by the way, people, if you're watching, you forgot there was a whole civil rights thing going on this time. Like, okay, cool. I was like, anyway, sorry, that came to mind.
No, that's fine.
It's watch it for him, and just get past the rest of it. It's so bad.
All right, moving on.
I'm going up there, I'm going to try it, I'm going to let the jury decide.
As we close out our spotlight segment, we come to our final takes called The Verdict.
If we are to have faith and justice
We need only to believe in ourselves.
This is where Tim and I give our final verdicts after rewatching the film and decide whether or not the movie held up over the course of 2 decades.
Now you get out of here before I call the bailiff and have you thrown in jail.
This is The Verdict.
I said to hell with it, to hell with it.
A shining example of a movie where the lead performance outshines almost all elements of the rest of the film, and is the reason a film should be remembered. Ray is exactly that film. Setting aside Fox for a moment, Ray is a forgettable film with some overall terrible writing and even potentially worse direction from Taylor Hackford. Almost a stylized movie of the week, though one with much better performances. I have a hard time recommending the film with one major caveat. Jamie Foxx is a revelation as Ray Charles. In his mannerisms, voice, and even the piano playing, Foxx is Ray Charles in film. Aside from Foxx, though, some supporting roles and obviously the music, there is not much to say about Ray. I'm glad we covered it, but I would say it is just not what we remember it to be. I have 2.5 solely for the music and the performance. Overall, skip it.
That's great. Ray is a paint-by-numbers biopic of a larger-than-life man who clearly changed the world of soul music, but you wouldn't quite get that from the movie. However, it's led by a career-defining performance from Jamie Foxx, who, like you said, just is otherworldly and is incredible, who at the time, as we talked about, hadn't really shown what he could really accomplish in his efforts in Hollywood, with completely meh direction from Hackford and just an all-around just feeling of, what the fuck am I watching? Do not expect much, but you can certainly expect much from Jamie Foxx. So I had a 2.5 out of 5 as well. I can't recommend it, but I'm happy we watched it.
The exciting quiz program 21.
Our final segment of the episode is Quiz Show.
I have stood on the shoulders of life, and I've never gotten down into the dirt to build.
Where in our research for our subject film, we find some interesting trivia nuggets that we hope will stump the other and possibly intrigue you.
This is not McCarthyism. We're not here to expose for the sake of exposure.
This is Quiz Show.
Well, evidently certain of the contestants were given the answers in advance.
Cheating on a quiz show. It's like plagiarizing a comic strip.
All right. Well, so I have 4.
You sure?
Kind of. Well, actually, I could, if I really wanted to reword things, I could probably go more.
About a shitty movie?
Well, 2 of mine have sort of like fun facts.
Let's go.
Or whatever,
Let's go with it.
Including, but I think I'll wait till the last is my favorite little fun fact that I thought of on this like ever. So I'm going to wait till last on that one. Okay. But I guess I'll start because I have 4.
Okay.
We'll go easy, maybe. This is the first of 2 films that Jamie Foxx and Kerry Washington are married. Can you name the second one?
I have one of these, yeah. Django and Jane.
There you go.
I remember watching it like, aren't they in a movie later together?
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yep. There you go. You
nice.
got one.
So, well, that's one of mine.
Was it one of yours?
It was, yeah. Actually, yeah.
Okay. Well,
no,
because
I was watching, like, oh yeah, these are in the movie together.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Recently deceased Quincy Jones is portrayed in Ray in a few scenes as a younger man, then a little bit later, and he has the distinction of having won the 3rd highest Grammy Awards. Can you name the musical artist with the highest number of Grammy wins?
Beyonce?
Queen Bey!
There we go.
Nice.
Do you know who was number 2? Did you look at number 2?
I did, actually.
Yeah, I don't know.
I forgot the name, but it's like some Italian
It's got to be some composer. Yeah. Okay.
Like, with like basically tons of Grammys for like orchestral work.
Sure.
That kind
Okay.
of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, there you go. Queen Bee.
But yeah, Quincy Jones, Beyonce, and some unknown Italian.
Some random
dude.
Italian.
Yep.
All right. So the film features 4 Oscar nominees with 2 people who won.
Oh, God.
Can you name them? 2 of them are pretty easy, Tim. 2 winners and 2 nominees.
In like features in terms of the work in
For
the movie.
acting, not in this movie, but
Regina.
Yep.
One for that I don't know.
The Beale Street. Yeah, If Beale Street Could Talk.
Yes.
We've already talked about one of them.
Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
And there's 2 others.
There's 2 others that have been nominated for Oscars.
From acting performances.
That's correct.
Oh my God.
One of them is pretty
through.
easy if you think through early in the film.
Gosh, I'm trying to think who's in the film.
Well, I can give you a hint because it is indeed hard out here for a pimp.
Oh, yes. Terrence Howard.
Yeah,
That's
Terrence Howard.
right.
And the last one is very tough.
That's okay. An Oscar.
See, if you don't know, you don't know.
No.
So the woman who plays Mary Ann, who he initially cheats with, like the first
singer.
background singer or
Yes.
whatever. Yeah, that is Anjanae Ellis Taylor, who is the mother in King Richard.
Nope.
I'm just saying.
Wow.
She was recently nominated for an Oscar, like 2 years ago.
Never would have got there.
I know, but I was like, hey, that's her.
Didn't see it. So yeah. Huh.
Bro. I mean, slap aside, you got to see the movie.
I want to.
It is so good.
Yeah.
It's
I hear it's good,
legitimately a great movie.
Yeah.
All right, what do you got?
So it's a random number that you have to choose. How many total Grammys did Ray Charles win over his career?
I thought you were going to be like, how many number ones did he have or something like that? Which, by the way, I think is like 13. He's got 3. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
How many total Grammys did he win?
I mean, see, here's the thing about Grammys. It's like it's early. Like the Grammys were not something until like the Beatles don't, I think, have a Grammy win or anything like that. How many wins?
How many wins does Ray Charles
I guess
have?
I'm just going to guess 1.
18.
Okay, that's opposite.
Right?
It's like yeah, big negative.
Yeah,
because they were early. Like he had, I mean, but then again, over the years, he was around for quite a while.
Yes,
18. Wow,
I
that's
know.
impressive.
I was like, holy shit!
I know.
You wouldn't get it from the movie because it's like, hey,
no,
but he gave $20 million to donations. But yeah, fine, whatever. So,
all right, are you done?
I am.
Because I got 2 fun ones here for you.
Okay.
All right, bear with me here. So, biopic acting performances are traditionally viewed as Oscar bait, with many winners playing historical figures.
Mm-hmm.
However, in the 96 years of Oscars, Jamie Foxx is just one of 3 actors to win Best Actor for portraying a musical figure. Oddly enough.
Okay.
One is very easy, and I'm going to give it to you because, whatever. Because we already talked about him.
Okay.
Rami Malek obviously played.
Yeah, Freddie Mercury.
That's right. So that's obviously one. So we're going to go there. But oddly enough, seriously, I know you're probably not going to get this, but it is an interesting fact.
Okay.
From 2004, you'd have to go back all the way to 1942 since the last time somebody had won, and the only time up until then, had won a Best Actor Oscar for playing a guy named George Cohan in Yankee Doodle Dandy. So you know the movie, and Cohan wrote all those kind of movies like You're a Grand Old Flag or whatever. But can you name the actor who won for
in the
Yankee Doodle Dandy?
40s?
It's 1942. It's a tough one, and you're not a big older movie guy. So I'm not offended when I give you the wrong buzzard.
I'm only thinking Spencer Tracy.
No, yeah. That was in the 30s, but it wasn't musicals. But yeah, because he went back to back in the 30s.
Yeah.
But it was James Cagney won for...
Really?
Yeah, he won for Yankee Doodle Dandy as George Cohan. And seriously, though, and actually even beyond that, my sub-fact to this is only 5. If you include those 3 as musicals...
Sure.
If you just were to include... They're not quite, but if you were to say they're musicals, only 2 other actors had even won Best Actor in musicals, which is Rex Harrison in My Fair Lady, and then Gene Kelly for whichever one in the 1940s, The Bells of St. Mary, whatever, like in actual musicals. And you would think like, oh, there have been tons of musicals over the years of music performers.
All the musicals have won?
Biopics of historical figures, in particular military and presidents and that kind of stuff, all over the place. But only 3 have played actual real life musicians.
That's some good deep cut.
I know it's a deep cut, but wait
like
till
that.
the next one.
That's good. Oh boy.
Okay. Tim, in the film, we see 2 of Ray's children on screen, and we know about a third with Margie.
Mm-hmm.
And I already gave you that he had one prior.
Oh, God.
But Tim, can you guess how many children Ray Charles had?
It's like, what's the over-under relative to his Grammy wins?
Under his Grammy wins.
That's it, yeah. So it's portrayed. Yeah, we know 4. I'm gonna guess 8.
You'd be low. He had 12 children with 10 different women.
Oh my gosh!
Yes.
Talk about
Womanizer
sanitizing
is
his movie. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, Womanizer would be the least.
Jeez.
Oh wait, I gotta give you a wrong buzzer. But my favorite fun fact of all time that we've had in I think 115 episodes at this point. Ray Charles's kids were born in 1949 all the way to 1987, which means, Tim, that Ray Charles has one child older than our parents and one child younger than us. Like, how fucking great is that?
That is amazing. That's
Like,
really good.
Well, like, good on you, dude. I mean, proof that men are the problem.
Yeah.
You could just keep
He's
spreading
just-
it all
yep.
the way, man. He's 57 in the 80s, just like, pew,
my
pew, pew,
gosh.
pew, pew.
Hello, lady.
Yeah.
Hello.
I love it. He literally has one. He has one child older
Oh my
from 1949. His next kid was 1955, which we see in the movie.
Sure.
As his first, theoretically.
Oh my gosh.
And then 87. Yeah. Wow. He has kids that are 38 years apart.
Oh my God.
I know.
You know?
I was like, I love it.
Hey,
man.
that's
Wow. Hey,
you
if
do
you got
you.
it. Got it.
You do you. Wow, that's good. That's really good detail.
All right. Anyway, that brings us to the end of our happy hour episode on Ray. Make sure to go back and listen to our recent episodes on your favorite streaming platforms, and stay tuned for upcoming episodes on Sideways and the Polar Express. We want to say thank you for taking the time to listen and for clicking that like or subscribe button on your devices. Find us on the internet via the metaverse of Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, and head to 20years4beers.com for more information on us. This has been 20 Years 4 Beers. My name is Steve.
I'm Tim.
And thanks for listening.
Thanks.